All right, what's up, YouTube? Going to do a video on Manny Pacquiao today. I recently did a video on the review of the Broder fight. A lot of views, a lot of comments. I've been reading all of the comments, okay? People have a lot to say about Manny. And I want to compare him to the other five top welterweights, okay? Uh, I disagree with a lot of comments. I know everybody is expecting a Floyd Mayweather rematch. I personally don't want to see it. The first fight wasn't great. Um, I don't think the second fight is going to be any better. All right. So I just don't care to see a rematch. I wish Floyd would stay retired. If he's not going to stay retired, I would like Floyd to fight the other top welterweight, which is what he's not going to do. It's just too risky at this point, and he's probably not going to make the money that he's looking to make. At this point, I think he's just exhibition Floyd. Manny Pacquiao, somewhat similar. Somewhat similar. He's fighting active guys. Relevant people, but not quite on the level of the fighters that we want to see him in. Matisse was a good return fight, and Broner was a good money fight. Okay, Broner knows how to sell a fight, but like I said in the prediction, I never thought Broner was a real competitor for Manny Pacquiao. I thought even old Manny was just too much for Broner. So I want to compare Manny to Danny Garcia, Shawn Porter, Terrence Crawford, and Errol Spence, and Keith Thurman. Okay, Keith is fighting this weekend. So I'm going to be looking to see if Keith is still Keith. That's all. If Keith looks a little slower, if he looks a little off, I know he's going to be a bit rusty. But, I'm just not sure about Keith Thurman. I know when Keith Thurman was at his best, that would be a different story. But I want to see how Keith fights this weekend against Josecito Lopez. It's a good comeback fight, a good comeback opponent. After not fighting for 2 years. So let's start off with Danny Garcia. I want to start off with Danny because if Manny doesn't fight Floyd, I see Danny Garcia being his next opponent. I think it's a realistic fight. I think it's a winnable fight for Manny. Danny has a name, and Danny is just a guy that people like to fight. Years ago, I did a video on this fight. I thought when there was rumors that they would possibly fight. This was when Manny was still actually with Top Rank. There was a rumor. I can't even remember what fights in between it was, but there was a rumor that these guys were going to fight. I see people already talking about these guys possibly fighting. It's just a realistic fight, So if he doesn't fight Floyd and he fights Danny, me personally, and this is no disrespect to Danny Garcia. I think Danny Garcia is a good fighter. I think he's a very good fighter. I don't think even Manny Pacquiao at this stage, I think can beat Danny Garcia. Okay? I think Danny's dangerous because he has that no-look left hook that has knocked out Khan, and he's hurt a lot of people with that left hook. I think he can definitely time and catch Manny as he's lunging in, throwing his combinations. I'm not trying to doubt him. But I think out of all of those fighters I just named, those top five guys I just named, I think Danny would be the most winnable fighter out of all of those five fighters. Okay? And I think it's a realistic fight. Since he is a PBC guy. I would pick Manny to win that fight. I think Manny and his quickness, his experience, his combination, and his work rate, even at 40, it can do enough to win a decision against Danny Garcia. He's not going to hurt Danny. He's not going to knock him out or anything like that. I just think he would land. I think he would have an easier time landing that left hand than he would with Broner, in my opinion. I think Broner's just, even though I think Danny's better than Broner, Not trying to say Danny isn't. But I think Broner is better at fighting a long range fight. I think Broner is a little quicker than Danny, a bit sharper with counter punching. I think even though Manny was being the aggressor, I think he was still a lot more cautious against Broner because of his counter punching ability. Broner did land some good counters in that fight. Danny can counter as well. It's just that he's slower. I think he's a little bit more predictable. Okay, so but Danny is very tough, and Danny will take a punch to give one. And I think Danny hits a lot harder than Adrian Broner. All right, it's a lot more dangerous. If they were to fight, I would pick Manny to win. Um, Going on to the next person, Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter, I don't see Manny Pacquiao fighting him, but I think Manny Pacquiao could outscore Shawn Porter. It's just that Shawn Porter is so aggressive, so physical. I can see Shawn Porter doing a lot of things that Jeff Horn did. Okay, if you remember back when Tim Bradley took Devin Alexander's first L, gave him his first loss. I mean, one thing Shawn Porter did was follow exactly what Tim Bradley did in that fight and won that fight. Okay, when Devin was a lot better back then and was a pretty crafty boxer, you could take him outside of his element, make it a very physical fight, and he'll turn it right into a brawler. You know, Devin is a brawler without punching power. Okay, so I think with Manny, if Shawn Porter were to fight Manny, Shawn wouldn't really try to outbox him. He would just be overly physical like the way Jeff Horn was. Okay? It's just that most people still think Manny won that fight. I scored it 6 rounds to 6. I thought one of those rounds could have been a 10-8 round just because Manny was really dominant and hurt Jeff Horn. One, I think, was like the 9th round or something like that. So if you scored it, giving him a 2-round edge, I would have definitely had it Manny. But even though Jeff Horn was very physical, I thought he did box well at the same time. But it was definitely a lot of dirty tactics in there. But you got to blame the ref for that. The ref should have been given more warnings, taking points, stuff like that. Shawn Porter would do the same exact thing, in my opinion. Shawn Porter, who was bigger than Manny, would definitely try to be overly physical with him. And Manny is just not a strong guy. I think he's a puncher, but he's not a physically strong guy. He's very, very small at 147. That's a fight that I believe would be a 50-50 fight. I think that's a fight that Manny can still win. You know, I don't expect Shawn to knock him out. I don't expect Shawn to outpoint him. I expect Shawn to out-wrestle him, headbutt him. All right? Land punches while they're close, smothered punches that really won't have much effect on Manny, but may slow Manny down and get him out of his rhythm so he's not throwing as many punches, similar to Jeff Horn. All right. These are 2 realistic fights. These are 2 fights that I think Manny can actually win. And this is why I think Manny, even at 40, he should fight 1, if not 2 of these guys at PBC if he's not going to fight Floyd. I know he's looking for the money. I know he's not trying to get into the, high risk, low reward fights. But he's an official top welterweight, even at this current age that he is. He still can run with the top dogs. Now, when it comes to the other 3, Keith Thurman, like I said, I want to see how he looks Saturday. All right, I want to see how he looks Saturday. I think after Danny Garcia, I think Keith Thurman is the second most likely, if not the first, most likely to fight Manny Pacquiao on the PBC side. I think if Manny were to fight him in his very next fight, he would have the best chance of beating Keith Thurman. I will take a best version of Keith Thurman over Manny Pacquiao at 40. Okay? Thurman is a good counterpuncher. He has good legs, great hand speed as well, great power, great counterpuncher. I can't see Manny beating him at this point. I think if this was years ago, I think Manny would definitely have a better chance. I want to say maybe 5 years ago. But Keith Thurman is on his A game, and if he's nearly as good as he was, I see Keith Thurman beating Manny Pacquiao. Manny, if he gets countered by Keith, he's going down. He's a tough dude, a tough little dude. He's pretty durable for his size. He's fought a lot of guys, punchers, and everything at 147. But Keith Thurman is a real puncher. That guy hits hard, and he's fast. He has good angles, and he's a good counterpuncher. He can time you. So I think if they were to fight, depending on how Keith looks in his next fight, I would pick a best version of Keith Thurman over Manny Pacquiao. Errol Spence. Errol. One thing I would say that Manny would have an advantage over Errol is that if Manny is if he comes out being aggressive, because Errol is a good come forward Terminator type fighter. I think out of all those guys I just named, him at coming forward, he's a guy that's going to put you away. He has power. He has high value. His pressure game is better than everybody else there. Okay. Errol works. He's the worker at welterweight. But if Manny is going to be aggressive early, if Manny is going to come at Spence like the way he came at Broner, Spence doesn't have the back foot game like a Broner does, or a Thurman, or definitely not like a Terrence Crawford. If Manny is to be throwing combinations in the way that he does, Errol doesn't have the counter-puncher ability like some of the other elite welterweights, like Thurman or Terrence Crawford. I can see Errol being a little unbalanced at times, going backwards, especially if he's getting hit with flurries. But with Errol and his power and his size and his youth, Errol can make the fight work for him. Especially if it's a physical fight, he can do that. That's what he's good at. And I know it's hard to do that with Manny. It's hard because he has great legs. He moves around a lot. It's hard to really catch him, time him and stuff like that. He's really quick. But I see Errol at some point, especially in the later rounds when Manny slows down, I expect Errol to take over. All right, and it's not going to look pretty if you were to fight Errol. But I do see Manny doing well, especially early against Errol. I wouldn't call it a 50-50, but I would call it a 60-40 for Errol. All right. Manny still, to me, overall, might be the better boxer, probably quicker hands, great timing and everything, but he's definitely not as sharp as he used to be. Okay, and he definitely lunges in a lot now. I saw that a lot in the Broner fight. Terrence Crawford, I think, is just all wrong for Manny Pacquiao. And I think they realized that while he was over there in top rank. I think him and his team realized that. I think Freddie Roach realized that. He did speak public and say that he didn't want Manny to fight him. I just think Terrence is just all wrong. I don't think he has any chance of beating Terrence Crawford now. I think if he fought Terrence Crawford 2-3 years ago, I think he had a better chance of beating Terrence Crawford. I think even before he became undisputed, if he had fought Terrence right when he moved up to 140, I think Manny would have had a better shot at beating Terrence Crawford. Crawford at this point, I don't see it. I think he's just stylistically all wrong. He's like a Mayweather, but he's going to fight a lot more than Mayweather did in that fight. He's going to do a lot of things Mayweather did to give Manny trouble. He's going to slow down Manny, drop down his volume. Manny's volume was so low. His punch rate was so low against Floyd. And I see Terrence doing a lot of that and being very active himself. I just think it's a bad fight for Manny, and that fight is not happening. It would have happened already. It's not gonna a fight that's not gonna happen. I think he's the least likely out of everyone. This is why I said him last. I put him last. You know, Errol got a fight with Mikey coming up. You know, if Mikey can, even if he loses, if he can kind of expose Errol, then I can see maybe Manny or some of these other guys jumping up to try to fight him. But as of right now, Errol out of the question. Terrence Crawford's extremely out of the question. And Keith Thurman, I think, is possible more over Shawn Porter. Even though I think Keith Thurman would be the harder fight for Manny Pacquiao, I still see that as being a bigger possibility. I think Danny and Keith are two big possibilities. Okay, uh, but I say all of that to say this. I think Manny Pacquiao can fight these guys. All right, he can see he doesn't have to. He has nothing to prove. He doesn't need to prove that he's a king at welterweight. I get it. He's already done. His legacy is already solidified. He doesn't have to fight any of these guys, period. If Floyd doesn't fight him, he can just pick another exhibition of any whatever. He can do whatever he wants. I see Tank Davis is talking. Tank is talking about, nothing surprising me at this point. But if he were to fight these top 5 welterweights, most of them would be very competitive, in my opinion. I think the Terrence Crawford is the only fight that I don't see really being competitive. I think Manny will clearly lose that fight. But everybody else, I think he could give some of these guys a run for his money. So I would love to see those fights because for many, many years, we didn't get a lot of fights that we could have got because of the beef between Top Rank and all these other promoters, the Al Heyman fighters and all that shit. We didn't get to see Manny Pacquiao fight these guys. We didn't get to see Tim Bradley fight some of these guys. We didn't get to see Marquez fight some of these guys. It was just the welterweight division was separated. Now all these new fighters are in. I would like to see Manny Pacquiao at least fight one of them. Please let me see him fight one. So that's it. I'm going to cut the video at that. I got other videos on the way. Be on the lookout for those. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.